Hey, book lovers. Welcome to While I Read. I'm Katie Dodrell, and today I'm going to talk about 4 thriller arcs from NetGalley that I have started off 2025 reading. So I'm really excited to start my new year in reading, my new year on this channel. By the way, my channel has now been around for a full year, and I'm really enjoying doing it. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow in 2025. So for 2024, my goal was to read 100 books. I made it to 89 books. So pretty proud of that. That's more than I read in 2023, which was 84 books. In 2025, I've set my goal again to read 100 books. So we will see if I make it. So to start off the year, I joined NetGalley because I heard other booktubers talking about getting ARCS, advanced reading copies, from NetGalley. I had no idea if I would be approved to get any ARCS, but then I got 4 ARCS for upcoming thrillers. So that is what I started my year doing, reading these thriller ARCS. A couple of these will have already released by the time this episode airs. A couple of them will release later in 2025. All 4 of these books were on my most anticipated books for 2025. So I was really excited to get to read these books. And I did enjoy all of them, though, of course, some more than others. So today I'm going to talk about all of these books. If you look in the description for this video, there are links to all 4 of these books. If you click on the link and buy the book, I will get a small percentage of the proceeds at no extra cost to you because I am an Amazon associate. So that's a way that you can support my channel if you're interested. I also have reviews of all of these books over on my Goodreads site if you want to go and look at that. So let's get started talking about these 4 thrillers that I read. So the first was The Last Session by Julia Bartz. That one will be released, I'll have to check again, but I believe it's in March. And that book by Julia Bartz, I've read one other book by Julia Bartz, The Writing Retreat. I think I probably liked The Writing Retreat better than I liked The Last Session, but The Last Session did keep me interested the whole time. It was very fast paced, just a very good thriller to start off the year. The Last Session is about a social worker named Thea. And one day, this woman shows up at the inpatient clinic where Thea works. And Thea feels like she's seen the woman before. There's also a similarity in appearance between Thea and this woman. So when the woman first shows up, she's basically catatonic. And they know that something traumatic has happened to her, but they don't know what. Then, fairly quickly after she does start talking, she and Thea talk a little bit. And Thea is really interested in learning more about this woman and in trying to help her. But then the woman disappears, and Thea looks into it a little bit and figures out that she has gone to this wellness retreat in New Mexico. So Thea decides that she is going to go to this retreat to see if she can find this patient, to figure out what happened, and to see if she can help her. So, as far as what I liked about this book, I liked the character of Thea. I felt like Bartz did a good job of just making Thea very relatable, very likable. Like you can tell that she, is a good social worker, that her clients are important to her. You kind of feel sorry for her with some things that she has going on in her personal life. They just seem very relatable. And so she's a good character. There were some aspects that I didn't like. So Bartz's writing style is very compelling, and I wanted to keep reading this book, and I was interested in it the whole time. But a lot of Thea's decisions were just so dumb. And yes, everybody makes dumb decisions from time to time. I do it all the time. But it felt like a lot of these decisions were made just to keep the book moving along because they needed to happen for there to be a book. So she goes to this wellness retreat in New Mexico, and I'm not really giving any spoilers away, when I say cult alert. Like, this place is obviously a cult. And so she goes there, and some really crazy things start happening very early on. Some things where any sane person who values their life would be like, okay, I'm leaving. I'll try to help this woman if I can, but I'm not going to be able to do that if I am dead in this cult. So she makes a lot of really dumb decisions. There were also some pretty over the top aspects with the cult. Of course, cults are over the top, but there were just a lot of things that were unbelievable in this book. So I gave this book 3 stars. I might round it up to 3.5 stars because I was, like I said, I was interested the whole time. I wanted to find out what happened. It was very compelling, just very compulsively readable. I was reading this like on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and I kept trying to find times to get off by myself where I could read this book. Like, we were having a family dinner that day, and I was like, I've got to go read my cult book. I've got to see what happens because I really was interested in the book. But overall, there were a lot of things that I didn't like about it as well. So I would recommend reading this book if you're just looking for a fast paced book and you can overlook a few of the things that will make you mad that Thea does or that seem a little bit over the top. So, next, I want to tell you about See How They Hide by Allison Brennan. I got an advanced copy of this, but the publication date is January 7th. So, by the time you are watching this, that book will already be published. So this is book number 7 in the Quinn and Costa series. I've read all the books in the series and I really enjoy it. So this book is about this whole series is about the mobile response team, which is part of the FBI. And it's this unit that can go around to different areas of the country and investigate crimes that have taken place that maybe the law enforcement in that local community doesn't have the resources to solve. And this mobile response team just has all kinds of resources. Like, they have a lab with scientists working in it, they have psychologists who are working with them. So it's really interesting to read about this team and the dynamics of the team, how they work together. So Kara Quinn and Matt Costa are the main members of this team. Matt Costa is the leader of the team. Kara was an LAPD detective and she ended up working on the team and she's part of it now, but she does struggle to get respect from some members of the team because she does not have the same type of training that they do. She didn't go through like Quantico, some of them don't consider her to be a real member of the FBI. So in this book, there have been 2 murders that are eerily similar. The bodies were discovered covered in red poppies, their throats were cut, but they took place on opposite sides of the country. One was in Oregon and one was in Virginia. So these murders are obviously related. And so the mobile response team is investigating. Some of them are in Virginia, some of them are in Oregon. And so as they investigate, what they start to discover is that these murders are related to this mysterious community called Havenwood, which, guess what, is sort of like a cult. It's not quite a cult, like it doesn't have all of the aspects of a cult, and there's discussion in the book of what a cult actually is. So Havenwood is sort of a cult, but not completely. So I don't know if that's going to be a trend in the 2025 books, that a lot of them are going to involve cults, but these first 2 that I read did. So anyway, it's about the team investigating this cult. So Kara is able to form a bond with this woman named Riley, who is someone who was able to escape Havenwood. And Kara's trying to figure out, who is killing these people and why, and how does it relate back to Havenwood. So to me, the most interesting parts of this book were about the dynamics between the team. Kara and Matt have a relationship going on, and in every book, the relationship progresses a little. We learn so much about Kara and Matt. They're both such interesting characters, especially Kara to me. We also just sort of see how the team works together. There's another team member, a psychologist named Catherine, who doesn't like Kara, and Kara doesn't like Catherine, and Kara's being micromanaged in this book. And, reading that, it just sort of drove me crazy. It made me angry on Kara's behalf. So I loved reading about the team dynamics. For whatever reason, this book was not as compelling to me as some of the other books in this series have been. It it wasn't as compulsively readable to me as The Last Session. Even though overall I feel like I liked See How They Hide better than I liked The Last Session, I just didn't have that feeling of, oh, I've got to read this book. I've got to figure out, got to find out what's happening next. I don't know why I didn't get that feeling. And from reading other people's reviews, I think I'm in the minority on that. So maybe if you read it, you will. Now, again, this is book 7 in a series. So I don't know. You could jump in here, I think, but you would be a little bit behind as far as just relationships. But as far as what's happening in the book, I think you would be fine just jumping in right here. But the other books in the series are really good. I gave this book 3 stars. Again, I might round it up to 3.5, but it was a good book. It wasn't as good as some of the others in the series to me, but it was definitely a solid police FBI procedural that I would recommend. Next, I want to talk about Parents Weekend by Alex Finley. So, this book is about 5 students who disappear from this private liberal arts Northern California college. So, these students all live in the same hall. They're all part of the same like orientation group or something like that. And their parents have come to the school for Parents Weekend. They're all supposed to have a dinner together one night, the parents and the students. But these 5 students don't show up at this dinner. And so the FBI ends up getting involved. Agent Sarah Keller, who has been a character in 2 other Alex Finley books, Every Last Fear and The Night Shift, is one of the agents who is investigating what happened to all of these students. So we get chapters from different points of view. Each chapter is from either one of the families of the students who are missing from their point of view. It might be from one of the students' points of view. And then we also get some from Agent Sarah Keller's point of view. So I really enjoyed this book. I read The Night Shift by Alex Finley and really, really liked that one. I think I tried to read Every Last Fear and didn't like that one as much, but maybe I should go back and try it. Those are the 2 others that feature FBI agent Sarah Keller. So to me, the best parts of this book were the chapters that featured Sarah Keller and her investigation into what happened. She's just a really good character. We get to read about her work as an FBI agent. She also has 9-year-old twins, and I think in the first book I read that she's pregnant with her twins, and in this book they're 9 years old. So the twins are growing up. And so it's great to read that. And I love the parts where it was about her and her family. She has this great husband who is such a good, supportive husband to her, such a great dad to the kids. They are moving, they've just moved to Northern California to be with her husband's father because her husband's father is dying of cancer. And so they're moving in with him to like just sort of help him to just be caretakers for him. So Sarah has had to take a different role in the FBI in order to make this happen so that she can be here for her husband. So I just love seeing how this married couple is just so supportive of each other. A lot of times in these books, we see the FBI agent who is married, but they're having, so many problems in their marriage and so many issues with their family. And in this book, it's just such a sweet family relationship that's just refreshing to read about. That's not a huge part of this book, but it was my favorite part of this book. So, like I said, we also get chapters from the points of view of each of the families. of the students. And, in every one of these chapters, we're finding reasons where, maybe the disappearance has something to do with what's going on in this family, or maybe it has to do with something that this dad did, something in his past. So that was interesting, but I did feel at the beginning of the book that it was really hard to get into it because every single chapter was focused on a different family. And after the first couple, you were like, okay, we've learned about this family, we've learned about this family, now it's going to be about this one, now it's going to be about this one. And it was a little slow to me because I just felt like, okay, I'm ready for things to start happening. And then it was also hard to really get to know any of the characters in the book. It's a fairly short book. And so I didn't feel like I was really emotionally invested with any of these students or their families because there were just so many of them that you didn't have time to get to know any of them really well. The only one I was emotionally invested with was Sarah Keller, but I was very emotionally invested with her because she's just a great character. There were lots of twists in the book. The twist at the end was one that I didn't love. I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like it fell kind of flat for me. But overall, this was a very fast read for me. I love the character of Sarah Keller. So I gave this book 4 stars, and I would definitely recommend picking this book up when it comes out in May. I also want to read more books by Alex Finley after reading this one. The last book that I want to talk about, and probably the one I had the best time reading, is The Last Room on the Left by Leah Conan. So, this book will be published January 14th. So, by the time you are watching this video, this book is already out. And I recommend that you buy this book and read it right now in January while it's still cold outside. Maybe it's snowing where you live, because this is just a really good wintry thriller. So it's about a writer named Carrie who has a job serving as a caretaker at this revitalized motel in the Catskills. So her plan is that she is going to spend her time at this hotel writing. She has some very minor duties as the caretaker, but this job is for people who are creative, and it's to give them a chance to write or to do their creative thing. She has this big book deal that is supposed to be life changing for her, but she is really having a hard time actually getting the book written. She's also going through a tough time in other areas of her life. She and her husband have just split up. She has just had a friendship that ended, a very long term friendship that she's pretty heartbroken about. And she also has a drinking problem. So she really wants to sort of get her life together while she's here at this motel. But pretty much as soon as she arrives at the motel, maybe like the day after she gets there, she looks out her window. There's this huge blizzard. She's completely cut off from everything. Her cell phone is not working. She doesn't have any service, which, she's been thinking of as a good thing because there's going to be no distractions. But she looks out her window and she sees this pale hand peeking out from the snow. So there is a dead body. She's there all alone, doesn't have any way of getting in touch with anyone. So the book just takes off from there. I really felt like it never slowed down. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but we do have 2 other point of view characters in the book. For a while, we just have Carrie, but then as the book progresses, we have another point of view character and we have another point of view character, and I won't tell you who those are yet. So as we read the book, we learn about some of the other people who live near the motel, some other people who might have had reason to be involved in this woman's body that Carrie has found. There is a neighbor down the road who has a property dispute with the owner of the motel. This is a woman who lives down the road, but there's also a man who lives sort of out in the woods, and he also has a property dispute. There is a young guy who does some handyman type work around the hotel. There are also a couple of cops that Carrie has to deal with. So we get all of these characters, and we don't know exactly who can be trusted and who can't. So really loved the isolated, wintry, snowed in atmosphere that we have here. I liked Carrie. She was likable. I felt like the book did a really good job of presenting her as this smart, funny, nice woman, likable person, but it also showed that she is very flawed. She is an alcoholic, and some of the parts about her alcoholism are just heartbreaking. She hasn't really admitted it as the book is starting, and so that might be something that could be triggering to some people, depending on your experience with alcoholism. But for me, that was something that I both enjoyed and disliked about the book. I liked the character of Carrie, but I also got very frustrated with her and with the decisions that she was making with her path of self destruction. Sometimes that flawed, unreliable female narrator can get a little old. I liked it in this book overall. I gave this book 4 stars, mainly because I just loved the wintry, snowed in atmosphere. I was reading it at the perfect time of year because we were having some really cold weather in January in Georgia while I was reading it. Although here where I live, we didn't get any snow. I was disappointed because it would have been awesome to read this book while it was snowing outside. So if you live somewhere that you can do that, I definitely recommend it. So hopefully I've sold you on this book. By the way, a lot of reviews compare this book to The Shining because it's this, and I think even at the beginning of the book, the narrator, Carrie, compares herself to characters in The Shining. To me, this book didn't have a lot in common with The Shining. It wasn't really horror, it was a thriller, and I don't really like The Shining. I've never seen the whole thing. This book was definitely suspenseful, but it was not scary like that. So I recommend this book. I recommend reading it. Hopefully, I have convinced you that you should pick this book up soon. So that's it for the 4 thriller arcs that I've read so far in January. I've really enjoyed my experience reading these books. I recommend all of them as good books. Now I kind of am in the mood to read something a little lighter, a little more comforting. I think I'm going to go into some cozy mysteries, maybe some fantasy for a while, but we'll see. I can never stay away from the thrillers for long. So please comment. Let me know what you've been reading. Let me know if you plan to pick any of these books up. Thank you for watching. If you like book reviews and recommendations, please subscribe to my channel. Now, go drink a cup of coffee while I read.